Hey guys, it's Mark Holthe here. Super excited to be back and grateful to once again have the amazing technology that's out here to allow me to do these live Q&As. So we'll wait for a little bit as people tune in. I've got some neat things that I'm going to be doing today. We'll give a shout out here to people as they're popping in. Uh, there we go. We'll find a spot for them there. I think this actually is pretty good. I think everybody can see those comments maybe a little bit better than they did before. So we've got Sanjay from Dubai. Let's just maybe attach a little background. I wonder if that works a little bit better. Actually, do you know what? I think I prefer the other version. So we're going to take that off and just leave it the way it is. Okay, so Sanjay's from Dubai. Great to have you joining us. Tony says, hey, Mark. All right. And we've got questions coming in already, so hang tight with that. Those of you who are tuning in, make sure you always post where you're listening from. For those who are just checking out this live Q&A, wondering what's going on, I was a little bit rough and tumble today, and obviously the presentation isn't always spectacular. Some days we have more challenges than others, but the reality is when we're trying to make all of this work, the key is substance over form. So some days the form is a lot better than others. All right, let's see who else, excuse me, that we have. Connecting in, we've got Shuvro, is Bangladesh. Excellent there. And I'm just going to maneuver a few things around my screen. Okay, so it looks like we've got a bunch of questions. So hold off on your questions for now, and we will get to those in just a little bit. Okay, we've got Marlon. He's tuning in here from BC. Great to have you, Marlon. Let's see here. So hold off on your questions, and we'll get to you guys. Zachariah says, hey, Mark. Anbu's tuning in from Miami. We have Cameron is from Saudi Arabia. Awesome, very cool today. It is. What is it like where you guys are at? Is it, the world, at least here in Canada, is starting to warm up, which is great. And it's nice to actually have sun out, to be able to go out and ride a bike, obviously practicing this whole world of social distancing. What is it like for you guys out there? Is it seem like the world is starting to go back to a little bit of normal? Now, obviously with our large groups, and I won't be able to watch my dear Calgary Flames play anytime soon, but at least not live. But this is kind of the new world we're in. Callum says hello. Hey, Callum. Kabir's tuning in from India. And of course, Callum here is from Scotland. Great to have you joining us. Andy's tuning in from Trinidad. That's excellent. Great to have you, Andy. We've got Eden from Texas. Nai here is Nigeria. And Amin is once again... Apparently, I'm now also a competition to U.S. lawyers. I don't think so, my friend. I don't practice any U.S. law, but it's good to have a representation here from Periscope, so that's great. Okay, Naveen is India, and we've got Jasmine here from Kuwait. Very cool. And then Asa, we'll give you a shout out from Ghana. Great to have you joining us. And remember, I'm just going to shrink this down just a little bit. When it comes to the questions, just hold off and we'll get to those in a little bit here. Larry's in Port Harcourt and Abhishek's over in Scarborough, Ontario. Dr. Gaurav is in India. Welcome, welcome. We've got an unknown person, and the unknown people, you probably have got privacy settings or something on there. Rishu has got a question here from India. We'll hold off on answering that question. And Anbu says, Miami doesn't feel like quarantine. Well, I know different countries are taking different approaches to that. And obviously Canada is still pretty, we're trying to be pretty socially responsible. Not all countries are following the same kind of levels. And Eaton says it is kind of going back to a normal step, but step by step. You're right. It's kind of a staged kind of return to what's normal, right? So I think we're all looking forward to that. Rock's tuning in here from YouTube, and he said he's from New Brunswick, and he's here on behalf of his wife, from Fort Kent, Maine, US. Awesome, Rock. So I'm not sure if you're looking at sponsoring her. Fire away any questions on sponsorship. I'm happy to answer those. August says, hello, team. We've got Karthik from Chennai in India, which is great. Miriam's posting from Ontario, and you can see we've got a little bit of a larger background there, but that's okay. And then Victor is Texas. I'm just going to see if I can make one little adjustment to this. Let's just see. Sometimes it will work and sometimes it doesn't, but let's just see here. Give me a second. I'm going to see if I can provide a little bit of opacity to it. Well, not that. There's nothing like making changes on the fly, hey, when you're doing this. That's what's that is what's fun. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a shadow effect. Let's see if that helps. I wonder if that's any better here with that. Well, not bad. That might work. We could probably roll with that. Let's try that and see how that works. The most important thing is that you guys can see your questions and see your responses. Addie's tuning in from Germany. Awesome. Okay, we'll keep going here. There we've got Diana is tuning in from Sarnia. Great to have you. Fantastic. We've got Wakas is a New Zealand representative. Good. We got someone there. From Grenada. Cool, Dinal. Great to have you. And Fola's Cameroon. And Guzlani is Morocco. We've got a really good contingent of people here, so it's great to have you joining. All right, and Mitzi once again from Pincher Creek. Mitzi is a permanent resident of Canada and a past client who just love to have her tuning in. So it's great to have her. We've got another Saudi here. That's great. And as I jump in here, Welwyn is out in Toronto. Great to have you. Okay, let's see what Eaton says. It is a mess in Texas with quarantine. A lot of cactus head thinking. There you go. All right. And Yasmin says that they've got a 16-hour curfew in Kuwait. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Nithin's tuning in from India. And part of you guys are, some of you are wondering, Mark, why do you do this? Why do you do these shout outs? Well, to a large extent, it's because it takes time for people's feeds to actually catch up to what we're sharing. And so I don't want anyone to miss out on the opportunity to realize that we're going live here. Big shout out to Ralph, as always. He's been the producer of some of my intros that I've used from time to time, and a really good friend and past client as well. Good to have you joining. I love it when the alumni come back and say hello and chime in, so it's great to have you. Christian's out in Vancouver. I bet the weather's nice out there, Christian. Maybe a little rain, right? Okay, so hold off on your questions. We've got Laxman here is tuning in from Dubai. A big old question there. We'll keep skipping through. Jod is over in India. Hello, Jod. Good to have you. Aziz is Bangladesh. It's awesome that you guys are all so willing to participate. It just makes things so much better. Mina gives me a big little wave. Great to see you, Mina. Thanks for connecting here, my friend. We got someone from Colombia. Nice South American representation. That's great. And someone from Kazakhstan. This is awesome. Another person from Pakistan. Great to have people all tuning in from all over the world. Jode says, impact of lockdown, it's like the beard man. That's awesome. Oh, and we got more Pakistan representation. Babar, great to have you joining us. I'm trying to see if I can catch up with everybody. Dr. Manaza is from Dubai. Welcome. And I'm just skipping through to the people that are posting. We have someone from Somalia. Great, Abdullahi. All right. And we've got someone from Calgary. Igor, you'll like that. Igor, who works with me, is living up in Calgary. And Abu Dhabi, nice. UAE. Hyderabad, wonderful. Mohsen. We got someone from Kingston, anonymous person here. Let's see, who else do we have? We've got Raul from Oman, and we also have Roxy from Toronto. Welcome, Roxy. Sesh is Ethiopia. Caro's Argentina. This is awesome. Diala, Lebanon. I'm waiting for the day when I have someone from Antarctica, although probably not going to happen. Okay, Andy says, no new cases in Trinidad. The lockdown was done early and it worked. That is so awesome, Andy. Now we'll all keep our fingers crossed that we're not going to have any kind of a second wave that comes through for a lot of countries. Okay, Katrina says she's from Ontario and she's got a boyfriend in Lebanon. Well, hello to both of you. I don't know if your boyfriend's able to connect. We've got Mohammed here, who's a lawyer. Great, Mohammed. Robin, I'm doing awesome. I'm doing very, very well. Ronak is Montreal. We've got someone unknown from Maldives. Maybe someone can point out. I'm not sure exactly why the unknowns are showing as unknown, but I'm just grateful that they're here. Manesh is from Vancouver. We've got Mady over in Denmark. Great to have you joining. Okay, Mirwai says, hi, Mark. Hello. Jasmeet is tuning in from India. Welcome, Jasmeet. And Jennifer, also from India. Wonderful to see you, Jennifer. It's so good. Awesome to see you. Thanks for tuning in here. And Jennifer, yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome. Okay, and then we've got Harmon from Surrey, and we got another Periscope contingent. That is so cool, people. Misha is over in Washington. How are things going there, Misha? It's awesome to see that all 3 platforms are getting hits. That's so cool. Crudy's in India. I just feel like just welcoming everybody today. And I know it's kind of like this big room when you're individually pointing out everybody, but just awesome to see people from all over. And Dr. Groff says, great news, stay safe. You bet. Fresh Beer says Antarctica. Wow, we finally got someone from Antarctica. That is so cool. You guys are hilarious. That's what makes these things so fun. Really, it really is. Okay, Mahadi is Indonesia. Great. And then if you have questions, and Jennifer says, thank you for your warm welcome. Okay, and looks like we've officially caught up, which is great. So Jagveer's in BC, and we have someone else from Denmark. Awesome, I love the European contingent today. Okay, guys, live Q&A on immigration. That's what it is today. Well, I want to start off with a question, and I've got a bunch of questions. I'm not going to get to all of them. Oh, okay, you guys are distracting me now. Raul says, did you ever visit India? No, I haven't. But maybe when this craziness ends and the lockdown ends, then I'll be able to deal with it. And I'll be able to get on the plane and come over and see all of you awesome people over in India. It would be really cool to make stopovers in different countries and have just live sessions there. I think that would be really neat. Maybe one day. All right. And we've got Peter here from Dubai. Great to have you, Peter. Okay. So those of you that are posting questions, please hold off just for a second because there's a couple things I want to do first. The first thing is there were some questions that were posted last week that last Tuesday that I didn't have an answer for. And the question that was asked was, let me see if I can find this. I'm just going to pull it up. I got a bunch of things going on my screen, so bear with me. And I'm in the process of taking a course to make these live Q&As just better, more professional. So I appreciate you guys being patient with me as I kind of sort my way through these things. But I want to pull up, let me just see if I can get this all sorted correctly. I just want to pull up a question that was asked. And this is where I wish Igor was right beside me. Okay, it's right at the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to pull up an email that I got here from Igor, and let's see if I can find it the proper, let me see if I can find this. I just have to switch over to share my screen. Okay, so there's all the questions everybody's been asking. And then I need to flip over and change this to Microsoft. I think this is the one. Yes, it is. Okay, hooray. All right, so let's just see if I can enlarge this a little bit. And you can see the questions are that you probably can't even read that, but hey, there's ways to get through this. Okay, so let's take a look, and it might even be better to make it a little bit larger. Okay, so there's a big old question here, so I think you guys can kind of see what we've got going here. I think I may actually just pan me back. Well, no, we're okay. It's always interesting trying to make everything function. We'll leave it like this. Okay, so you can see here, Kabir says, I hope you're well. I have an important question which I hope and guess is beneficial for all. Well, in this case, it really was beneficial. Beneficial enough that I'm going to address it specifically. But it says, I'm not clear on this at all. Does our PR card have the date of landing or the date of issuing when IRCC prints it? Thanks so much. So you guys will remember before that I was struggling a little bit with this answer. I was trying to figure out, okay, I'm not sure. I've never really looked at it. Well, today is the day. And what we're going to do today is we're going to unpack this. And understand I've got a little bit of a green screen behind me, so bear with me because I'm not going to be able to kind of show it really the way I want to. But let's see if I can pull it back. Oh, make a part of me, green screen. Anyways, I would pull it back and just, you know what? Let me see here. Bear with me. I'm gonna show you what's behind the magic here, and it's called a green screen. So I think this might be a little bit better. Yes. Okay, so what we have here, and I know it's a little bit harder for you guys to see, is a PR card that came in the mail. This is what it looks like, and I think that's a little bit better. Maybe I hold it higher. Oh, okay, you guys get the picture. So here is a PR card, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have an unboxing. My kids, it's so funny. I'm going to turn my green screen back on. It's so funny. My kids, sometimes they'll watch these unboxings where people will, I don't know, take apart something that they've bought. So this little envelope from Immigration, this is what I'm going to open. And fortunately, I have a lovely employee, an awesome employee by the name of Igor, who's allowed me to do that. So I am going to officially open this up. Okay, so we've got it opened here. I use the finger technique to tear apart the edges, but and then we're going to open this up, and so you can see here, there it is. We've got this, and that's a little bit white, but that's okay. So we'll open it up, and I'm actually going to shift back here. I'm going to turn this off again because it seems like that, and this is, I know, a little bit weird, but hey, this is how it works. So in here, one of the things that we have is this little letter here that says welcome and thank you to Canada, and on the bottom it has a place where you can scissor it off, like cut it off, and actually write in your travels outside of Canada. And so they say, hey, are you interested in applying for citizenship? Well, you need to track the days that you spend outside Canada. So they've got this little piece of this section on the bottom. Hey, that's better. You guys can see this. And on the bottom of it, they say you can cut it off and then you can include it in your passport and just track those days. And on the back, there's a little bit more space where you can track things. Okay, I think you guys can kind of see that now. Woo, there it is. Anyway, so that you get that instructions as well as a link where you can print off more space if you need. Now, I'm positive that there's probably out there some apps that probably make it a whole lot easier than writing on a piece of paper and including it in your passport. But hey, shout out to the government for actually making a good effort to do this. Okay, next thing that we have here is, and this is the part that I think most people are super excited about, is right here, and I'm going to try to put my finger over it, but you can see right here we have the actual letter with the PR card. And here we have on the PR card the fine Igor here. And so it's awesome. This is his PR card. He's an official permanent resident of Canada. Super excited for him. This actually was delivered a little while ago to my office, but we just haven't had a chance. I've been meaning to connect with Igor in person, but haven't had the chance to. And so this encloses, this little letter here encloses the PR card like we showed before. And then on the back, it gives a bunch of information about maintaining your permanent resident status in Canada. And finally, we're going to get to the answer to the question, and I'm going to jump back in here with my normal screen. We're going to get back to Kabir's question, which is, I'm not clear on this at all. Does our PR card have the date of landing or the date of issuing when the IRCC prints it? All right, well, let's take a look. So on the card right here on the front at the bottom, and I'm not sure if you guys can kind of see this, probably not, but at the bottom, no, you can't. Okay, but I'll read it for you guys. At the bottom of the front card, it says date of birth, and then underneath it says the expiry date. And so this card, the expiry date is March 13th, 2025. So this card was issued on March the 13th, 2020. So the card itself, we now know that card the card itself is valid from the date it was issued. But when you flip over and look at the back side right here, it has on there the place of landing, which Igor landed in Calgary. It has a PR since, and the since date here says February the 10th, 2020. And I know that you guys can't see that if I hold it up, but the back of the card there, wow, that's really annoying with that green screen, isn't it? It specifically states the date when he actually completed his landing at the Calgary airport. So when you think about it and you put that together, you're actually getting a little bit of a bonus depending on the PR cards when they're actually issued. So he landed on February the 10th, and the PR card is valid until March 13th, 2025. And that's when, that's basically the process and the answer to that question. So hope you guys liked that. That was my PR card unboxing, apparently. So yes, so hopefully you're in luck and you're going to get one of these awesome little letters as well. Okay, all right. So let's, after that, I do have a few other questions that we will go through. So let's flip back here. We'll answer these ones and then we'll move on. So next question here is Himanshu. And he says, hi, Mark, this is Himanshu from India. What if a company is known by more than one name? The basic name is the same, but extensions are different. While browsing, both names pop up. Your supervisor mentions the name of the parent company in the reference letter, and your payroll section mentions the other name. As you need to include both letters for your EAPR, should both the company name be included in EE profile? Thanks. Do you know what? I'll be honest, Himanshu, when I have issues like this, and they come up from time to time, the key is just to explain. So it doesn't really matter what you do. Obviously, everything is true and accurate, but the company has different divisions or different sections, and they have different, different names that they go by. The most important thing is that you're explaining. So if payroll is issued by one entity and your work is done with another, I try to include everything in that I can to support it. And then in my letter of explanation, that's how I explain, to some extent what you've explained right here, how it all plays out. And each situation is obviously case by case, so it depends on your unique situation. And after looking at what the reference letters look like, that's where I determine what to include and what not to include. But generally, immigration and the express entry process is full of situations where you just don't have room or space in the express entry EAPR or profile sections to really answer properly or adequately. So in your situation, I want to, I just encourage you to just explain very well. And in those circumstances, if you preempt it and you explain it for the officer in advance, then it resolves any concern before it even arises with the officer. And what is a concern? Well, understand, you guys, a concern that people talk about is when the officer doesn't necessarily believe what you're saying or is unclear as to whether or not you've provided enough evidence to prove what because the applicant has the onus of proving what you need to get your application approved. All right, so we'll go through just a little bit more here. Okay, next question is Jairui. See, before when I didn't show this, you guys didn't see how bad I was pronouncing names. So Jaru, maybe Jaru. Jarui. All right, I'm going to stop butchering that name. You know who you are, and you got lucky enough to get your question answered today. Okay, I have one quick question, hoping you help. I created the profile and entered the pool just a few days before completing 1 year work experience, but my ITA was actually received after the 1 year experience completed. Would that cause my PR application to be rejected? I think I answered this one already. I think this is one that I actually answered. So we're already into the questions that were answered before. The reality is, I always take it really, really carefully. If you have claimed, and we answered this last week, I know we did. If you're in a situation where you submit your profile and it gives you those extra, that extra credit because it's only on a month by month calculation instead of a day. So if it rounds up and you get credit for more work experience than you actually worked when you submit your profile, okay, well, it is what it is. And then you've reached that 1 year, if that's what you were trying to get. If you reach that 1 year before you receive the invitation to apply, then there's no problems at all. You don't need to worry about it. If you receive an ITA when you hadn't originally reached that year, like I said last week, it's entirely possible that an officer could reject the application for you not meeting the minimum entry criteria. But in the past, we did have one head official with express entry tell us that they would recognize that it wasn't your fault, but the government's, the express entry system's fault, and they wouldn't penalize you for it. But that was probably 3 years ago now, and I just don't trust immigration at all. So there's the short little answer there. Okay, guys, it is now officially time to start answering your questions. So what I'm going to do here is I think I'm going to post them the way I did before versus the scrolling version. I think it just makes it better and more clean. And I have a little bit more control over the ones that I'm pulling up here. So you guys can start now posting your questions. And I'm going to scroll down through all of them here and see if there's anything before I get to the ones where I want to start. Okay, let's see here. Okay, let's see. We've got Samaya from Morocco here. Okay. Let's see where we're going to start here. Okay. All right. And we actually have some Iraq representation, which is great. Okay, so we'll start with KA here. So any news on federal skilled worker draws? None as of today. We haven't heard anything about that. Okay, some of these are going to be actually a little bit bigger than I intended. Ooh, that is kind of big. I don't know if I like that. I'm not sure if I like that. Let's see. I may just, it's a real tricky kind of situation because I want this to appear properly. Let me try this. I'm going to shift over to my questions, but I'm going to flip over to the comments and see if this appears better. You know what? I think this might actually be better because otherwise it just takes up too much of the screen. And it's kind of interesting how I'm overlaid over this anyways. Okay, so this obviously is my software little system that allows me to do this. Okay, so let's go through here. So I just pulled this over. I wonder if I actually skipped through a few. I think I actually did jump back when I moved it over. Okay, so we'll go through it here anyways. Okay, so Diana says, when uploading the supporting documents like professional degree, it says that it has to be a certified copy. What if I don't have it and I only have the regular copy, which is for sure from the original? Okay, so I'm assuming, Diana, that you're talking about in the context of a translation. So if your document needs to be translated, they've shown very little mercy. I just don't take any chances. When it comes to the certified copy, if you choose to submit an application and not comply expressly with the requirements, it may be that 90% of the people don't have a problem. But I, as an immigration lawyer, I don't deal with I don't give people advice on probabilities. I give advice on possibilities. And if you submit your application without getting that professional degree, a certified copy of it, obviously it's scanned and uploaded anyways, but it doesn't matter. The instructions ask you to provide that certified copy if it's a translation. And all of that can be found on the IRCC website, the Express Entry Completeness Check website. So if you're wondering, Mark, where do I find this information? I won't flip my screen over right now, but all you have to search is Express Entry Completeness Check IRCC, and that should take you to the page where you can search for all of the specific instructions regarding documents. But for you, Diana, you have to understand that there's a risk. And maybe that risk is only a 5% risk, but there is one if you choose to proceed without having a certified copy. Okay. Jennifer says, thank you for your warm welcome, Mark. Okay. Jag Veers, British Columbia. Zina says, hi. Hi from Denmark. The one challenge I have is if someone posts stupid comments on here, but that's okay. I love your background. How do I get it? Eaton, the background, Igor found it somewhere. And he's talking about this background right here. And then we just blurred it out. And I have a lot of different features in my little Ecamm software that I'm using on my Mac to do these live videos. And I'm actually in the midst of a course trying to improve how I do it. And I think some of you also saw I had a little bit more of a better introduction into it as well. I have to work on the outro, the tailing you guys off. I don't quite have that set up as nice, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Okay, then we've got some other people here. Yep, Samarul says, did you ever visit? So I think we've gone through a bunch of these, but we'll still hit these questions. Okay. What's the deal with Ircc not accepting phone calls from outside Canada? Any workaround? Dude, that's just the way the toll-free number is. So it's just the way it is. I don't know a workaround really, other than having someone in Canada make that call on your behalf. Understand, even the call center, you're going to wait hours and hours before ever getting a response. Okay, continuing through here, I am Kareem. Received a notification of interest from Ontario. Okay, the issue is the IELTS will expire next month due to the global health crisis. Is it possible to take another one in this period? What should I do? Obviously, most provinces are going to be kind with this. Now, the dates and people are able to start booking those exams. You need to show that you have proactively gone out and done everything you can to book and schedule a new exam. Then what I would do is I would make sure you include those efforts and showing that there's no exams available. And when you submit your application, I would do everything you can to provide an explanation that says, here's my IELTS. I know it's expiring. I have not been able to book a new exam, but I will as soon as it's open, take it. And I think that, obviously I can't speak for a PNP, but that's how I would approach it and hope that they would show mercy. All right, Peter from Dubai, you bet. And then Andy says, when do you think the airports might be open for non-essential travel? Well, we know right now that we're probably pushing into May, June. Obviously May, I should say June. But as far as non-essential travel, it all comes down to the orders in council and whether or not they continue to extend the travel restrictions. And at this stage, we haven't received any specific indication one way or another. Okay. Starbucks Carol says hello from Toronto. Yep, we've said hala. We've given shout outs to all these folks here. Let's see. I've done my ECA for my Bachelor of Pharmacy from PBC. Will I get points for professional degree? Yeah, if you've obtained your educational credential assessment from PBC, then that should allow you to get recognition for a professional degree. Yep, and get those ECA points. Okay, multiple questions of the same. Okay, if I send you my CV and my job details, will you help me point out the best long-term visa for me in Canada? Because I'm a layman in this process and I want to have PR in Canada. Of course, my friend. Absolutely. I'm an immigration lawyer. Now, obviously, the maybe the hidden question or the unknown question is, Mark, are you going to do it for free? And the answer is, Mark does this for free, my friend, but I don't actually do that kind of work for free. So you need to book a paid consult. And let's see if I can shift over here to Google Chrome. Okay, here's the website, the firm website. And all you need to do is just go and you can click on here, or depending on the view you have, and just go to start here. And if you click on start here, then it will take you to the place where you can actually fill in the information and book a consult. And you can see here, the consult prices are $210 Canadian for a 25-minute consult. But don't be deceived, because these consultations have you submitting your information, your details to me, so that I am ready to hit the pavement running when I'm answering questions. So that 25 minutes is actually a little bit of a misnomer, because it is much more detailed than just you telling me everything and then wasting 15 minutes of the call with me getting up to speed. That is not how it is. So that's what I'd recommend, my friend. Okay, but yes, I can totally help you. Okay, so how's the situation changing across the world and around Canada for immigrants? Do you know what, guys? The reality is immigration processing has ground to a halt for work permits and study permits and anything that is not deemed to be, well, what the overseas offices constitute critical. If you're outside of Canada, do not expect anything to happen quick. I've got work permits, I've got study permits, everything that are just pending. And those officials in those foreign visa offices have confirmed they're operating with a skeleton crew. There are fewer officers. And what happens when there are fewer officers? They can't process as quickly. So at this stage, there's been no word when they're going to start processing things that are not considered critical. And the reality is that definition doesn't exist in law, doesn't exist in the orders in council or the program delivery instructions. But that's in reality what's happening. Okay. So as far as immigrants as well, when they're looking to come in, same story. March 18th was kind of the magic time, but they're not, with these orders in council and with the Quarantine Act and how the Canada Border Service Agency is applying the restrictions under the Quarantine Act, it is resulting in people really not being able to come if they don't already have a connection with Canada. So either a job and an employer who desperately needs them, to provide services in an essential industry, essential service. But when it comes to something that is non-optional or non-discretionary, good luck knowing what that would be. An example I would give you is reunification of families. Like I said in past videos, I've got a good friend here in Lethbridge who's married to a Peruvian woman, and they're separated because she hasn't habitually lived here in Canada before. She's traveled back and forth, but her coming to be reunited with him, even though that's within one of the Section 3 pillars of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, the reunification of families, in this world, the Quarantine Act, and how the border officers are interpreting non-optional is basically that situation is optional. You don't need to come right now. So, and you guys have seen, like, actually, do you know what? I'm going to show you one other thing here. I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to share my screen back with you in a second here. But we're going to go back. I'm going to pull up my Facebook page, and I'm going to pull up here the official Government of Canada Facebook page. And you'd be surprised, guys. There's some good up-to-date information that you can also find in there. Okay, so I'm going to open this up and see if you guys can see it okay. I'm going to shift over to Chrome. All right, so here's the Government of Canada's page. And you can see here, as you scroll down, they've got lots of information, blah, blah, blah. But you will see they have actually adopted one of the things that the Canada Border Service Agency has been peddling right here. Okay, are you traveling? And who issued this? This is the Canada Border Service Agency. And the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada Facebook page is now adopting this. So understand this messaging that's going out. This is from the border officers. Are you traveling to the border for immigration services? Now is not the time. And they, and so they're trying to hashtag this, whether or not, that determination of what is the right time, that is how the officers are looking at it. So you can see here, and then they say, if you have questions, contact immigration. Well, the reality is the buck stops with them. So I just wanted to share that with you guys so you could see this is the reality that we're living in right now. Okay, this is the reality. Okay, jumping down, let's look at some more questions here. Just having an active EE profile problematic when writing for a study permit, the statement of purpose. Okay, understand, guys. There is no fine rule, no hard rule that says if you have a profile in the pool that your study permit will be refused. But I can tell you, and I just released, I guess I can show you one other thing, and it takes me a little bit time shifting back and forth, but I'd encourage you guys all to Immigration Podcast right here. I would encourage you guys to take a look at this podcast, or just have a listen, I guess I should say, to the most recent podcast that I released just last night, directed towards international students in Canada, What the Future Holds with Immigration Lawyer Will Tao. Now, I did this episode, I recorded it with him before this whole coronavirus thing broke out, but there is some information in there. I've got a little bit, I'll just go right to the main site of that. I have a little bit of a note here at the beginning and a link in terms of essential services and some of the other things with respect to the pandemic. But go in here and have a listen to this one, because we talk a lot about, at a very high level, what the future holds for students and some of the challenges that they face. And so you are definitely not alone when it comes to just the challenges that people are facing. And so we talk also about the fact that if you have a profile in, an officer could look at that and use it against you when you're trying to show temporary intent. And as a student, you have to, with your statement of purpose, yes, you have to indicate it. And if you already have a profile in the pool, I'll be honest, the officer can see it. So Yasmin, it probably would make sense for you to try to address it and to diffuse it and say, look, I had my profile in, but I realized I just have better opportunities in my home country, and that's why I want to get the Canadian education and then come home. That's the key. And there's a whole lot more to it than that, but I just wanted to point that out for you. Okay, all right. Hello, Gubani. All right, and for those of you who are just tuning in, you can see Holthe immigration law is on there for a reason, and that's because I want everybody to know I'm not just some average Joe who came to Canada myself and obtained my own permanent residence and now consider myself an expert. I am a Canadian immigration lawyer, and I'm currently serving on the national CBA National Executive. Let's see here if I can pull this up. See if I can find it here, and I'll just show you guys so that everybody knows who I am and what I am doing. Okay, I'm just flipping the page over, and then I'm going to share that Chrome page right here. Okay, there we go. So you guys can see here. There it is. All right, so as you can see, there's me. Although I do need to update the picture. I'm looking a little young over there. But that's us. So I'm currently the vice chair, and Ravi Jain is our chair. Kyle and Marina are involved. I am the lightweight on that team. So those other three are phenomenal. They work so hard, and they're just dragging me along. I'm trying to keep up, but I'll tell you, they are so much smarter than I am, so much more capable. And I'm one of those individuals that I do my best, and I try to share what I know, but I really have so much respect for these four. They're unbelievable. And Ravi, especially during this COVID crisis and everything that's been going on, he just finished his interview with Minister Minicino just on Tuesday, and he's just exceptional. So I want to give all of those four just a massive shout out because they are phenomenal. So good. All right, let's shift back here. Okay, and actually, do you know what? That brings something up. I'm going to shift back here. I want to tell you guys something, okay? So when I make mistakes, the first thing that I like to do is to jump on and explain to people if I've said something incorrectly or I've given some advice that isn't accurate. Now, I can tell you that when that happens, it's rare, but when it does, I own it. So I'll give you an example of what happened just recently. And this is a classic example of how difficult immigration is. So I had a client who booked a consult with me, and she'd applied to extend her work permit, and the LMIA didn't come through for the company, and so her work permit was refused. And then she had received instructions to restore her status. And for years, I have operated under the premise that you can restore to any status, not just that of the previous one that you've held. So if you're a worker in Canada, I believe, now don't understand this isn't accurate. I had this presumption, and I had done it in the past where I had actually restored from, say, a worker status to a student. And that's actually what this client wanted to do. She wanted to convert back to study because her post-grad work permit had expired and she wanted to stay in Canada. And so I'd given her the advice that, yeah, I could help you to do that. It shouldn't be a problem. Well, the reality is that's not the case. And about 2 weeks before, immigration had produced a PDI that I hadn't noticed that restricted that process, where now they are indicating that you need to restore back to your status as a worker before you can transition to another through a change of condition to another status. And so I was so grateful this client reached out to me to follow up because she'd received, through different reasoning, she had ended up going with another lawyer, but she was kind enough even to book another consult with me to just double check and make sure that the advice that I'd given her was correct. And it wasn't. And so instantly, I obviously returned her consult fee. And it was a perfect example to me of how much work it is to stay up to date with all the changes. And so if you're dealing with someone who is not staying on top of the law and is not staying on top of the changes, it doesn't matter whether they're an immigration lawyer, a consultant, or your best friend. Understand, just something that you've done even yesterday may not be the same today. And so I was so grateful that she reached out to me and told me. And because I had no reason to go and look that up because I just didn't even realize that there had been any changes. But I'm so, yeah, that's that. So understand, like even any of us can make mistakes. And that's part of the reason why I've shifted my whole process where it's more collaborative, where I actually work. And you can go check out Holthe Law, read how we collaborate with our clients in a very cooperative, and we use screen shares and all those kinds of things. So make sure that you go check that out. But that's why I shifted. It's not less of a caretaker where I just turn my application over to my lawyer and they deal with it and only reach out if they need something. No, we build your application together. A member of my team, myself, my staff, as well as you, go online, screen share, and we go through, you take the crack at putting your application together. We jump on and review everything to make sure it's all correct. So that whole model has shifted for me. And I was so grateful that this particular client actually took the time to notify me so that I can make, so that I could basically make that change. So very cool. All right, let's take a look here, and I can probably, oh, that's kind of big. We don't need it quite that big. You guys can all see this though. All right, let's see here. I think I maybe adjusted it again. Okay. Okay, how does IRCC cross-verify someone's relationship status announced in the profile? Unless they have a reason to look into it, they're not going to. But if they do, then they'll ask you essentially all the information that they usually do in a spousal kit. So they'll ask for, proof of your relationship, when did it start, things that you have in common, all of those kinds of things. Okay, then James says, when will IRCC start accepting family sponsorship applications? Well, family sponsorship is it's up in the air right now. And if you're in Canada, understand they're still accepting applications. You can still submit an application to sponsor a family member. It's not that they're rejecting, it's just that the processing, they're just often acknowledging via email that they've received it, and then it's just in the queue. And who knows how long it's going to take. Once again, reduced staff with immigration means that processing times for everything are going to increase, except for those critical, whatever that means, and essential type of services. Just going to get a little drink here. All right. Okay, let's see what we have next. Okay, Crudy says, my birthday is in May. Well, to start off with, Crudy, happy birthday. Happy early birthday. Obviously, it's probably not arrived yet. I hope it's going to be an awesome one. I shall lose 5 points if IRCC still continues not to do all the program draws. Yes. Birthdays are locked in when you receive your invitation to apply. So you're right. If they don't do a draw and you're outside of Canada, or they do a draw inside just CEC or PNP only, then you will lose those 5 points. So it's sad. Okay, Gabani, I can't help you with your driver job, my friend. Okay, please say about applications that are in process in London. Just like I said before, everything is ground to a halt unless it's critical. And so I've got companies that need to send people. I have work permits that are all tied up at consulates, and none of them are getting through right now, and unless it's something that's critical. Okay, Samaya, hello from Morocco. Okay, this unknown person says they got their AOR in October, and now they found that review required on their work experience. Yuck, through the GCMS notes. No update since 7 months. What should I do? Well, the reality is, how long, worst situation it can take to get a decision. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I can tell you, if you can go back, and I do this all the time with my clients, you need to go back forensically through your whole EAPR application, and there's ways of pulling it up if you can't access it. There's ways of actually accessing what you put into your application, but usually it's your reference letters. So if there are questions and you can see that they're questioning it, now is the time to act. You must not wait. Don't wait for them to send you a letter or anything like that. You're going to go in and you can do everything you can to provide additional information through the web form to hopefully clarify what the issue is, or some of the concerns that that the officer has. I don't wait. I'm proactive. And obviously when I go through it, I put my old immigration officer hat on, and I go through forensically looking for any issues that I think an officer might have. And then with my client, we address those. So unknown, if you want to reach out and book a consult to talk about it, I can probably get you up to speed with what needs to happen in that short little consult. But understand, you need to take this really seriously, because it could be the difference in you getting your permanent residence and not. Okay, she says, please, please, please. Woohoo, Starbucks girl. Okay, awesome. Karen says, hopefully some of us will get to open our own soon. Yes. And he is, if you're just jumping on, I'm just talking about these awesome PR cards right here that get mailed to people. And I truly hope that that's the case for all of you. And yes, thank you, Igor, for being kind enough to allow us to share that. Okay, Mike says, I'm a journalist for The Voice of America. Thanks for holding this live. From your point of view, and how much time will the American green card holders be able to travel to Canada? Can they travel now? Okay, like I said, Mike, this all comes down to the border and how they're interpreting the Quarantine Act. And this whole notion of travel, you being barred unless it is non-optional, and what does that mean? Non-discretionary. I hate this double negatives. And this is what we've been, I don't want to say fighting, but we've been pleading with CBSA. They have some internal directives that they're relying upon, specific examples, and the chair of our section, Ravi, has been very, very tireless in trying to get the CBSA to release this to us so that we can at least see the examples that they have at their disposal for who they feel should be able to come and who can't. The problem is that they're just not releasing it. And, as a former border officer, I can tell you that there is somewhat of a tendency for CBSA to do that. So I'll shout out to Minister Blair and his fine staff and say, look, there's no reason not to release this, because if people know what you're using to make determinations on who can come and who can't, it's going to relieve even more the flood of people that are coming that you're having to turn around. Now, yes, other people may say, hey, based on your rules, I can come, but they're entitled to do that then. So keeping things kind of in the dark and just giving people the overall impression that the borders are closed is not cool, and it's not the way to handle it. So great question, Mike. I'm happy to talk with you more about it. It's a really complicated issue. We've had little bits and pieces of these directives that have been released, but it all comes down to non-discretionary, non-optional, and that's flowing through because that's flowing through those border officers and the power that they have to determine who can come in and who can't under the Quarantine Act. And so, happy to talk with you about that. All right, very cool. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, Karen says, exciting. Robin says, hi, Mark. If I do not apply as a pharmacist still, can I do my ECA from PBC to claim points for a professional degree? Understand the degree is different than the work experience that you're claiming, okay? If you've got that educational credential assessment that says you're a pharmacist, you can claim that under education. All right. Ramadan Kareem from Iraq. Good to have you here. And I think that's probably where I started before, was KA. So you guys were fortunate. I jumped backwards a little bit there when I was maneuvering my screen around. But I think this is a better way of doing it, because then you guys can see what's coming up. And you can see, well, the interesting part is that some of you see these comments on YouTube, some on Facebook, some on Periscope. So you can see, this is why I'm jumping around and it's looking like I'm not answering your question. Okay. Mike says, and can journalists be considered as essential workers like here in the US? It all comes down to your pitch. They don't just have blanket yes or no. You have to make your pitch. And that's the problem that we're having, is because how these rules are being applied is not consistent. So yeah, Mike, it's tough. All right. Okay, Ad M says, I didn't get that sheet with my PR card. It's probably something new. And over time, they're adding more and more things just to make the process better. And I guess now is also probably a good time as well to give you guys all another shout out to, and let me just flip this over here back to my Chrome here, a shout out again to my course. All right, so Canadian Settlement course right here. You can click here to join it. And this is going to be in 18 hours. It's a free live webinar on settling in Canada. And I know a lot of you have a lot of questions. You're really uncertain about what the future holds. Go in, register for it. There's still time and it's free. And we're doing it, well, you can see it's tomorrow. We're doing it tomorrow morning at, I keep forgetting, I've got so many things going on here in my practice. If I go back here to this screen, you can see it is, it's scheduled for, here. There we go, Friday, May the 8th at 8 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. So go register, check it out. Those of you who are newly landed, those of you who are in the process of finalizing your EAPR, maybe some of you already have a passport request or your confirmation of permanent residence and you're wondering when you can travel. Well, the question for this course is, what are the things I absolutely need to know before I ever board the plane? Because once you've boarded and you've landed in Canada and you're floundering because you don't know where to find the resources you need, that's the purpose of this course, okay? So subscribe to this course. Okay, the webinar is going to be free, and then the course will be a paid course, but it's going to be totally worth it, and it's going to be totally affordable. All right, I wanted to share that with you guys. Okay, let's go back to the comments and let's keep burning through them. Okay, all right. What if someone haven't showed work experience while applying for the Canadian study visa? Then how should that experience while applying for PR and express entry pool? Okay, so this is an issue of having inconsistencies in prior applications. This is an issue, Dill. And I find this all the time. People just assume that they don't need to be thorough in their answers when they're applying for various immigration applications. And in those situations, you need to understand, Dill, that this is a reality and you'll need to explain it. I proactively go through, and there may be tons of other representatives out there who just tell you not to worry about it, but I will often address it. And so an officer can go back and ask further questions. And so if you're applying for express entry, the key 100% is that you fully disclose everything in express entry. So only work experience that you're claiming points for need to go in the work history. But for the personal history, you need to disclose everything. And if you've submitted a prior application to Canada, didn't include work experience, and now you're trying to claim it for express entry, you're going to face an uphill battle. So hopefully you didn't hire someone to help you with that study permit. And then all of a sudden, now you're stuck in this situation. Okay, here's an unknown person with a very kind comment. Mark, God bless you for all the good work you do to help people achieve their goals. You're very welcome. And obviously, there is a very, very parallel motive to why I do this. I'm located in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. I'm not in a large center. I don't live in Toronto. I don't live in, as Jeffrey Lowe, who I'm going to release a podcast with him that you guys have to listen to on business immigration, people investing in Canada and things like that. It's probably going to be a 3-part series because it was so long. But as he calls it, the MVP, Montreal, now MVT. No, MTV. Oh my goodness, these acronyms. It's so funny. MTV, he calls it. Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. I don't live there. If I did, I can tell you guys, I wouldn't be doing any of this because, obviously you do good work for people and then they refer word of mouth. Well, for me, being in Lethbridge, this is where I wanted to raise my family. And I have no regrets about it at all. But I've had to work a whole lot harder to get out there and get my name out and to get visible because people don't traditionally search on Google for an immigration lawyer in Lethbridge, Alberta. I love my city. I love where I live. My family has been blessed forever because of it. But these things are all a result of my efforts to try to get myself out there. If people aren't coming to me, I need to go to you. So that's one of the reasons that I do this is to support and grow and build this amazing, awesome immigration law firm. That's my goal. But one of the underlying reasons I do this specifically versus a whole bunch of paid advertising is because I genuinely want to give back. And I believe in the philosophy. Some of you may know BNI, Business Networking International. They've got this motto called Givers Gain. And in the reality, when you give and you help people, it comes back to you. And for example, even Ralph, who has watched these videos, one of my past clients from Edmonton, he's gone and he's created some awesome little intros and videos for me that are really kind of fun and that I can use as an intro to my episodes here and the various videos that I do. And other people, I remember there was a time where a person on YouTube was going in and actually tagging all the different questions for me. It was so kind. Those are things that just, you try to give as much as you can. And then my hope is that every one of you will either choose to pay for my services, register for my courses, that you will have gained trust and confidence in what I'm trying to do. And if you have friends, you'll refer them to me to book consults, and that in return, it will come back to me. And that's why I do it. For those two purposes. One is just because I want to help, genuinely care about people. And I'm trying to make that a part of my firm, this desire for the well-being of my clients and to genuinely care about people and not just the bottom line. But, a business has to make money. It has to be profitable to function. And if it's not, then it's going to crash and then you won't be able to do any good. So there's a motive behind why I'm doing. But thank you, unknown person, for that very, very kind words. And I'm sorry to hijack a little bit of the meeting today. Actually, I just want to take a look on my phone if my battery hasn't died here. We're running a little bit late today, but I'm just going to take a peek and see as far as my calendar goes, what my schedule looks like here. So I've got a little bit more time. So I actually don't have my next appointment today until 3 o'clock. I'm pretty busy right now with a bunch of stuff, but I'm going to try to give you guys as much time as possible. I know how hard it is. So those who are watching this, hang in there. If you say, wow, my comment is way, way down there, do you know what? I'm going to really work hard to try and get through as many of these I can. And if I have to stay on here longer, as long as Restream here that I'm restreaming all of this through doesn't close out on me, then I'm just going to keep doing this as long as I can. Okay. And yep, Igor, we'll get to those other things in a little bit. And if I have to work a little bit later tonight, then we'll make it work. Okay. So next, Ivania says, good afternoon from Hamilton. We have a spousal sponsorship that is processing. Okay. Ivania's husband's in Ecuador. Was wondering if under the new travel restrictions, could my husband get a temporary visa? It ain't going to happen, Ivania. It is not going to happen. The border officers are just not going to agree to do that. Even right now, like I said, I've got a good friend here in Lethbridge. His spouse is in Peru. She has a valid temporary resident visa. So it's not like she even has to apply. And in your situation, they're only processing critical temporary applications. So everything is ground to a halt. Okay, I think we've answered this one already about the global health crisis. Yeah, so I explained that one. Okay, Raul says, my intercompany transfer work permit 6221 is under process past 7 months. Meds done, bow done, last info received. It's being in the backlog check. No further documents requested. Can we be sure for a work permit to have a positive outcome? Oh, Raul, I wish I could say. If you'd hired me, I would say yes, because I helped you to do it. It's just a matter of time. But in your case, I'm not sure who assisted, if you used another representative or the company filed on your behalf, but I can't answer that one. I'll keep my fingers crossed for you, though. That I will. Okay, yeah, unknown applications currently in process. Everything is ground to a halt. At least overseas visa offices. It needs to be something critical. Okay, Peter says, okay, hi, Mark. On my process, I've sent my police clearance certificate. Because of the coronavirus, I've not received an invitation. I'm not quite sure what you're asking here, Peter. I think what you're saying is maybe you can't get your police certificate, but you say you've not received an invitation. So I'm not sure at what stage of the application you're at, my friend. One thing we do know, that immigration is taking into consideration that people may not have those police certificates because they can't get them from the countries. You can go ahead and file with proof that you've either made an attempt or that shows that the police is not issuing it. Any proof that you can have. I wouldn't just submit your express entry and not include it without providing an explanation, including evidence that you've tried or that it's not possible. Always do that. Okay, so we've got that one. I'm not sure, Rox Solana, I'm not sure when they will start sending express entry draws for federal skilled workers. I'm just not sure. Okay, Unknown says, dear Mr. Holthe, call me Mark. Call me Mark. Thank you so much for answering this question. Also, I'd like to express my gratitude and thanks to Igor. I must confess that it is so wonderful to come across someone who's so prompt and always willing to help. Thank you so much, Igor, and thank you, Mr. Holthe, for all that you do. Mark, I hope to see you both in India soon. I would love to come there. It would be so wonderful. In fact, I'd love to travel to all of your countries and you know, and schedule kind of like a world tour where I'm able to go and visit with people and do you know, live seminars. And then if people want to hire me after, we can set up time to do that. At this stage, obviously, we're all in lockdown, aren't we? Okay. Akish says, hey, Mark, greetings for today. I have already submitted all my federal skilled worker documents and paid the fees on April 7th. Can I expect my process a bit delayed, or it would be canceled due to COVID? Okay, if you've submitted your application, your EAPR application, it's not going to be canceled. Can you expect delays? Yes, you can. All right. Okay, so Mike posted again. So I think I've answered Mike's. That's great. Thanks for reposting. Okay, we've answered that one. Okay, we've answered Diana's. Let's see, go back to Facebook. Okay, Ronak says, I'm from Montreal and have more than 1 year of Canadian experience, but in 2 different knocks, and there is a 2-week gap between them. Am I eligible for express entry? Ronak, the question you have to ask yourself is not so much about the work history, but it's the requirement under the express entry process, the program, that you must be able to demonstrate that you are going to live in a province other than Quebec. So an intention to establish yourself outside of the province of Quebec. And when you're already living there, and I went out in October and did a seminar for the Quebec-based immigration lawyers. They flew me out, Acadie, just a wonderful organization, wonderful lawyers. Obviously, they have their own program in Quebec. So I was talking to them about express entry and some of the challenges that were existing because of people, their clients that were already in Quebec, and then trying to show that you had an intention to live somewhere else. It's a really, really steep, tough battle. So Ronak is not something I can get into detail here. I recommend you book a consult and we can go through that in more detail. But in terms of the gaps with your CEC application, the gap isn't an issue. You have to make sure you can pull work history together under the Canadian Experience class in bits and pieces if you want to. It's only the Federal Skilled Worker Program that has the expectation for continuous employment. So, but your issue is not that, it's something else. And guys, that's a great example. Sometimes you'll have a question that you'll think you want answered, but the reality is you may not know what you don't know. And in the case of, let's say someone, Ronak, went online and a whole bunch of people said, oh yeah, CEC, no problem. You can totally do that. You're eligible, right? You can count the 2 different knocks. That's totally fine. But what you have to realize, and this is where facts are so important, and this is why lawyers don't give legal advice online, it's because we don't have all the information. And even with the one client that I had come back to me when I'd missed something, what would have happened is if she'd retained me, is I would have discovered that in the process of preparing for the application, because I always go back and review everything to make sure I'm not missing anything. But in the context of a consult, it tends to be a little bit more rough and tumble, kind of like we're doing right now, right? And so when things are a little bit more rough and tumble, it's easy for facts to kind of slip away, and then you're stuck in a situation where you maybe are giving advice that isn't correct because you weren't aware of something. Well, that's the same case for people who are giving help online. They don't know what they don't know. And so they're routinely providing all these answers. And if Ronak submitted his application and didn't provide clear evidence that he intended to live outside the province of Quebec, his application would get rejected. Okay, Jode says, I just want to know what happened to the PNP nominations if before getting an ITA from Ircc, the profile expires. I always reach out to the province in those circumstances. You're obviously going to resubmit your profile. You're going to put it back in. That's critical. And presumably, the score that you have is not going to change from the one that ultimately allowed you to receive that nomination. But usually most of the PNPs are totally fine with that. But notify them, seek instructions, get your profile resubmitted immediately, and and make sure that you notify them so that they can ensure that their nomination is matched with the proper application. Okay, all right. Okay, Karen, we talked about that. IRCC not accepting phone calls from outside Canada, and Yasmin, we talked about that one already. Why is the simp taking so long? Because we're in the world of Corona, my friend. Bella. Oh, you guys, Bella right here is gold. She is so unbelievable. Bella, I'm going to give a big shout out to Bella right here. Do you see this, my friend? Right here. This is a big shout out for Ruvi. Here, I'm going to take a drink. I like the orange, Bella. She's my Ruvi. She's my Ruvi coach, and she's one of my all-time favorite, not clients, because we're so far beyond that. Bella is so awesome. She, you guys have to come and you have to watch the live webinar that I'm doing tomorrow at 8 a.m. because Bella prepared a wonderful video for me, and Bella's had a rough go of it as a PR in Canada, a really rough go. We thought that, getting PR was the best thing in the world. And yes, it was. Absolutely it was. But she had a really rough go. And you guys need to go on because she recorded a short video for me. And you also need to go on my YouTube channel, Canadian Immigration Institute, and search for Bella and listen to her story because she had a tough go. And yeah, I love you, Bella. You are my sister. All right. And Bella was crazy enough, for whatever strange reason, I don't know what possessed her, but I'm unbelievably honored. Jaden Mark Hansky, her son, Canadian citizen, is my little godson, and I was so honored, when they decided to. Um, okay, this isn't very professional for those who said lawyers shouldn't tear up on a live video, but there's nothing more satisfying than knowing that you've made a difference in a person's life, and for them to recognize those efforts in such a way that Bella did and Kai, is just and Ralph, Bella's brother, all of them is just more than, well, it just makes all of this worthwhile. All right, okay, enough of that. Compose. Okay, moving on. Okay, let's see what else we have here. So Priya says, hey Mark, thanks. You bet, Priya. Hey Mark, do you provide consulting for other programs in EE? Oh, Vikrant, yes. If I was to show you what I have going on right now, if I was to flip open my board, I use Asana to track all of the clients to make sure nothing's missed. If Igor was to identify how many different areas of law that I'm currently working in, I should say areas of immigration, you would see that it covers the full gambit. Everything. I've got companies. I work with spouses. I work with foreign workers, students, people that are looking, to come in all forms and fashions. So yes, express entry is just one piece. So thanks for asking that, Vikrant. And many people don't know that. I focus so heavily on express entry. All right. Okay, we've got Raul. We've already answered his. Mina says, hi, Mark. I want to ask you about something in IRPA called duty to disclose change in material fact that would otherwise affect the administration of this act. I was wondering, what are the limits of that? Does it include medical conditions that started after receiving COPR? Mina, yes, that would be considered. And we've had this discussion before, but that would be considered that duty. It would. And so it's hard because sometimes when you disclose those things, it could have negative implications on your application. But in the context of this, that would be a material fact. It would. So I know where you're coming. I know the situation with you and your dear wife, and my heart goes out to you guys. All right. Nilesh says, I called Ircc, the postgrad work permit extension, and they said I should apply a paper-based application for extension to CPCE so that I benefit from implied status. Do you recommend doing this? Nilesh, one of the issues right now, excuse me, that immigration is dealing with is that they don't want people to fall out of status when they can't travel outside of the country. And you ask a very important question there. And so what people are doing, they are submitting work permit extension applications. But I, as an immigration lawyer, would always explore all other routes versus just filing a, what do you call it? Just maybe a permit without merit. So one that doesn't really have a chance of approval. You can't extend a postgrad work permit, right? The rules suggest that you can't. Well, they don't suggest, they specifically state it. So by law, you can't extend a postgrad work permit. But the instructions are given that way so that you don't fall out of status. Example for Edmonton, if you were living in Alberta, and I shared this last in Tuesday's episode, how the Minister Tyler Shandro, was willing to offer extension of healthcare coverage to people that were under implied status. And if you did submit that work permit extension, then you could benefit from it. Now, there's a lot of gray to that. And us as immigration lawyers, I'll tell you, I would find a way to submit an application that had merit in some way, shape, or form. How much support is your employer giving you? I would definitely try to pull them in. So there's a whole host of things that you need to talk about that. Okay, Anbu says, Mark, I'd purchased your Federal Skilled Worker DIY guide online. Would you be updating it anytime with new information? Anbu, that's a great question. And here's what I want to share with people. So for years, I've sold a one-time purchase, and the guide, people benefited from all the updates. Well, now I've actually decided to make a change. And so as I update, and when I update it, whether there's a need immediately, but on an annual basis, I am going to update it and I am going to refresh it, but it will be a separate fee. And so people that have those accesses will be able to access the old one. But when it comes to shifting, it just was taking so much time to update it. I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours doing it. And the interesting part, Anbu, is that nothing in there is outdated. So I stand corrected. The only thing that is outdated is the display when you're registering for your MyCIC account. The fundamentals are all there, but the government has updated that part. And because the MyCIC portion is not something that's super contentious, I did not update that. But everything else in there is 100% current and up to date. So there's been no need to update any of the courses or the lessons inside. But I do intend on giving it a fresh look. And, it's a little bit new personality. So it hasn't been so long since I last did it, but sometimes your perspective changes too when you're doing a step by step. Okay, let's see here. Okay, we've got you, Mike. I answered those. Alexis says thanks for the information. You're very welcome. Okay, we got you, Mike. And Diana Patel says, what will be the economic impact of COVID, and will it have an impact in immigration for the next 2 to 3 years? I can answer affirmatively. It will have a negative effect on economics. That's just a given. And it will also have a significant impact on immigration for the next 2 to 3 years. Exactly how it plays out, we don't know. But in the interview that Ravi, our chair of our National CBA section, did with Minister Minicino, he reiterated that immigration is an important part of Canada's economic recovery, unlike many countries out there. And he also reaffirmed that immigration is important to our future with our aging population, the need to replace workers in our workforce. Immigration will play a critical role. So it is not going to be canceled anytime soon. Mohammed, I'd love to help you go to Canada. Book a paid consult and we can talk about all the options, my friend. Babar, when would international flights would open? Any news? We're just not sure. So it all depends on the orders in council. Depends on all of the just the travel restrictions and when they ultimately decide to extend those or update them. It's interesting if you guys, I've got a condenser mic here that I use. I'm going to lift it up a little bit so you can see. There's the corner of it. I have this condenser mic, so it doesn't pick up a lot of the noise that's going around. That's going on around me. Otherwise, you could hear my daughter belting out. I'm sure some of you might have heard it, that I'm gonna sing from the chandelier or something like that. I have 2 daughters that are in theater performance. Well, my oldest daughter's in theater performance and my other younger daughter does musical theater. So, if you could hear what's going on in the other room. But that's life, right? That's life right now. Okay, this is really fun. I'm really enjoying this, guys. I love interacting with you and I appreciate all of your kindness. I know there's a ton of questions here and I know we're not going to get through all of them, but it's really important that when I answer, I do try to give as detailed of information as I can and not just blow by people. But let's see if we can pick it up a little bit here. Okay, okay, Moi says that I have 27 days before a decision. Is there any chance it's going to be? Understand that bar, ignore it. I don't think it's going to get, it's not going to, I see what it says. Okay, it shows in my extrasensory profile that I have 20 days before the decision. Is there any chance that it's going to be it? Okay, so basically I think what you mean is 27 days till your profile expires. You've probably had it in the queue for a year. Yeah, when it expires, you just have to go in and resubmit. I'm assuming that that's what you're talking about, profile. If you've got an ITA, and that ITA is expiring, you need to get your application submitted. You need to get it in. Okay. Roxalana says, do they ask for additional medical examinations at the moment due to COVID-19? Not at this stage, they're not. Okay, Joe says, in place of average balance in a bank for the last 3 months, can we give bank statements duly stamped as an alternative? Yeah, I do that all the time. If the bank won't give you what you need, then I go out of my way to provide whatever other information I can. Now, some provinces, understand, Jode, your obligation is to provide exactly what they ask for. And when you're not able to do that, there is a chance an officer could reject your application. But I've found that officers tend to be understanding and facilitative when you've done everything you possibly can to prove through another means whatever they're asking for. And that's where it comes down to being an immigration lawyer, being creative and trying to think outside the box. Okay, Christopher says, hi, Mark. Thank you for your time and hope you're keeping well through the pandemic. I am, Christopher. I really am. Laugh and live. That's awesome. I love that. Says, thank you for your answer. You're very welcome. Okay, Dinah says, sorry, I meant it's translated because I got my ECA with it. I meant about the Spanish version. or do I have to upload only the translated one? Sorry, and thanks for answer. You'll remember when you go to the Express Entry EE Completeness Check IRCC, that site, it will show that you need to provide a copy of the original. You need to provide, and that copy has to be certified, as well as the translation and the affidavit of the translator. So that is what you need to focus on. So the original document that you include needs to be a certified true copy. All right. Tob, hello, boss. Hello, my friend. Okay. Sarav says, when will the visitors be allowed to travel to Canada? You've seen, I've answered that one before. We just don't know. It's all been shut down right now. Okay. Candia says, if the spouse is normally resident overseas but is currently in Canada on visit, should sponsor application be sent as if he's residing in Canada? Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me, I'm assuming you've got options, right? You can submit it through the family class, or you can submit it from within Canada. If they are planning on not staying in Canada and going back, then I would consider the family class. But if they're planning on staying with you in Canada, then I'd submit it through the In Canada process. But you don't want to submit it through the In Canada process and then they go back and don't stay in Canada. That won't work. And remember, if you are a permanent resident, you must be in Canada in order to sponsor. If you're a citizen, technically you could be outside of Canada and the application would still go through the family class as you're living with your overseas spouse. Okay, whoa. Alhan says, I'm having interviews with an insurance company. I was told this is going to be a self-employed job, even though I'll work under their company. But my biggest concern, I'm not even going to finish reading this. Those jobs are a nightmare. You could very well be disqualified from being able to claim this experience. I've had consults with people in the past. Seriously consider whether or not you want to take that job, because you may not be able to claim work experience under the Canadian Experience class, because you need a job, you need an employer confirming that you were actually an employee. And in your job offer, it's going to specifically state you're not, you're an independent contractor. And it's virtually impossible to overcome that reality in an Express Entry application when you're trying to prove that you're not self-employed for the purposes of your Canadian Experience class application. So Alahan, I'll tell you, have serious reservations whether or not you want to take that. You can always book a consult. We can talk about it in detail. But that's my first feeling. And I know how hard it is to get jobs right now, so I know what you're going through. It's really important. You really need to work. But seriously consider it. You don't want to take a job that isn't going to help you. Okay. Chris says, I just got notification of interest from Ontario, but my year of skilled work ended May 2015. I guess I should ignore the NOI since they say at least 1 year in the last 5. Yeah, that's correct. If you don't have that experience within there, you're not going to qualify. Although I would, I don't want to just say, I never want to give up or ignore something that you've received until I've never counseled you to do that without going through the process of thoroughly vetting everything to determine why that NOI was received. So you might want to book a consult, Chris, for us to look at it. But at this stage, yeah, I'm always reluctant to just ignore and not proceed with something that might be an opportunity if things are structured creatively. Maybe there's another way to demonstrate your work experience. Yeah. So anyways, that's the reality, Christopher. But yeah, it could be a significant issue for you. Yes, the process will be delayed, not canceled, Akish. Yep, Jane, I do consults for student visas, for work permits, lots of international mobility program, intercompany transfers, large multinational companies. I help companies here in Canada with labor market impact assessments. But the only thing I don't do with immigration is helping people actually find jobs. I don't do recruitment. Laugh and Live says, thanks, Mark. Provinces might have mercy, but what about IRCC after receiving the nomination? My IRCC profile will have an expired IELTS. Will this be an issue? Yeah, this is one thing that we run into problems with. You need to book it immediately as soon as possible. If you are going to lose out on an opportunity, this is quite complicated. I never want to give up on something unless I know for certain I'm going to have another opportunity. And with that extra 600 points for you, it's definitely something I'd encourage you to book a consult with. But it's a reality. IRCC is not going to alter program requirements. And one of the requirements is that you do have a valid IELTS at the time you apply. But there may be an opportunity to explain the situation, to make your pitch, and allow you to write it at the next earliest opportunity and request mercy from IRCC. I would be willing to take that chance if I knew letting the nomination expire and losing out on my opportunity to immigrate if I chose not to go forward. So, okay, so Unknown says, Mark, what about the applications which are currently processed? Are they issuing COPRs? In Canada, they're not actually, they're doing an email landing where they send an email to the client that says, surprise, you're now a permanent resident, congratulations. And not surprise, but they do that versus the official confirmation of permanent residence and landing process. And so so that's what they're doing. But outside of Canada, everything is ground to a halt. Like I said, everything is stalled out. They don't want people trying to travel when they don't have a connection to Canada, trying to self-isolate based on the quarantine requirements and not having a place to live. Like, they just don't want to encourage that. So they're not issuing these COPRs in any number. Now, there may be exceptions. There may be ways to reach out to directly to immigration, but I can tell you those are not even on the radar. I don't even advise my clients. Okay, okay. Nithin says, I got an ITA with spouse and children non-accompanying, and I've submitted the application last week. However, can we modify family status if we can meet the cutoff scores, as wives might lose job? So understand what Nithin is talking about is Section 11.2 of the Immigration Act. This is the same one that officers refuse your application for not meeting the minimum entry criteria or meeting the CRS threshold that allowed you to get your ITA in the first place. When you list your spouse as non-accompanying, you are assessed as an individual. After you get your ITA, if you try to add that spouse in, after listing them non-accompanying, they will then recalculate your CRS score. There was a time in the early days of express entry when they didn't have that kind of policy, but they do now. So in your case, you seem to indicate that if you reassess that your spouse, if your spouse is reassessed, you're still going to have a CRS score that's high enough. Well, Nathan, it may very well be possible, but is it, you guys always post complex situations. I need to know a whole lot more about the situation, what you indicated in your answers, to be able to give you anything that's direct and clear. But in these situations, if you chose to include her, you need to make darn sure you can prove it and allude to everything in your application showing that you definitely meet the A11.2 assessment. And even in those circumstances, you've got tremendous risk shifting from non-accompanying to accompanying, and officers will look through your application and they'll search for any kind of reason to refuse if they think you're trying to play the system. So, you know, legitimately reasons, but they might not show a lot of discretion. So Nathan, you might want to book a consult for us to examine that closer. Yeah, Luis, processing times for students, not a clue. It's ground to a halt. Sanjay says, I'll enroll. Great. And Sanjay's talking about the settlement course. Yes, you guys, attend the live Q&A for settlement tomorrow. It's a webinar. It's not going to be here. I'm going to be broadcasting it. Well, it's going to be through a private thing that you'll get an email. So you have to register for it. Okay. Dee says, if we apply an express entry, where that application goes, in Canadian Embassy based in India or direct to Canada. Dill, that's the reality. It can go anywhere. It can be processed anywhere with electronic. That's why they created it. Okay, Ibrahim says, are dependents of healthcare workers exempt from travel restrictions? That's an awesome question. And that's one that I can't actually answer. Generally speaking, the Orders in Council have said that family members can apply to come. In your situation, it starts with the consulate. It starts with requesting a letter for them to travel. Whether it's, you still have to apply for either a TRV or apply for the ETA, but they're just, understand immigration, we just don't have a lot of answers for those kinds of things. If it's a critical thing, I would reach out to the program manager in that visa office, because really that's the only one that we can really reach out to now, or send an email requesting instructions. But Abraham, if you're in a situation where you're a critical, your position is critical to the fight against COVID in Canada, there may be some ways to kind of work around that. But you need to probably book a consult or, seek direction from immigration. Okay. Akish says April 7th. I've already uploaded. Okay. Yep. Delayed, not canceled. Sarah started and didn't quite finish there. Well, and you're so funny. Can I change my looks, trim my hair to 0 after I submit my ID in medical and EAPR? Yes, you can. You can do whatever you want. That's so funny. That's a great question. Okay, Liggy says, I've got nearly 20% of pod from my spouse, our savings. Oh, proof of funds, I think is what he's looking for. Should I make an affidavit for the same, or a simple consent letter should help with his account statements? You need to make sure, it depends on if you're accompanying or not. When you're accompanying, I don't usually worry too much about it. A simple letter is sufficient. But if you are not accompanying, that's a whole different issue. And absolutely an affidavit is a part of it. But you still, the proof of funds would be calculated based on your entire family group. Okay, Sarah, I'm going to say no. Okay, I'm going to say no, that the borders are not going to be closed for the rest of the year for non-essential travel. But that's just me. It's just a guess, and we don't know. There's a lot of factors that we have to look at. Okay, this person's at 459, received an ITA, gave credit for 2 years of her experience while I'm only on 1 year and 11 months, but sadly got laid off before reaching my 2 years. What should I do? You can't proceed forward. You have to have actually worked it. And so whether you accumulated that leading up to the ITA or leading up to filing your EAPR, if you got those 2 years and you were laid off, the only thing is, if there's no hope of you being able to get back and work that extra month, then you're not going to have a leg to stand on trying to defend that. Okay, Eaton says, I withdrew my E because I didn't think I would get selected with CRS. I do have self-employed as author. What implications should I think about? Well, you can be self-employed under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, but it's so competitive. Unless you're in Canada at 455, it's going to be really hard to get that met. And self-employed as an author is not really an occupation that's in demand in any of the provinces. So it'd be really hard to see you get drawn. It's possible that you could consider, if you've written and you're published and you're respected in your field, it's possible you could consider the self-employed PR process for the arts and culture and sport. If you're self-employed in those occupations. Same thing, Eaton, you might want to book a consult to talk about that further. Okay, let's see. Yasmin, you're very welcome. Life Channel, how much IELTS band required? At a minimum, you need to have 9 for the Canadian language benchmark, which is 8 in listening and 7 in everything else. That's a bare minimum. And even now, it may not be enough. Okay, Rock says, POE no longer accepts people who wish to apply for a PR for work permit. That's correct. No flag polling. What are the options now for the visitors in Canada who receive an LMIA from a Canadian employer and need to apply for a work permit? Rock, there's the actual work permit itself. You'd have to submit that work permit application outside of Canada. But understand, none of this is urgent. Like, you'd have to demonstrate that the work that you're doing is essential, that it's a critical for you to be able to work. And normally in those circumstances, you have to go through the process of applying from outside of Canada. And without a flagpole option, it makes things unbelievably complicated. It's not something I can fully advise you on as a strategy, other than telling you that, yeah, no POE, and you don't have the ability to apply from within Canada under normal circumstances. Depending on your situation, there may be ways to submit work permit applications in a creative fashion, but and I might have some creative ideas, but not something I can tell you here without knowing all the facts. Okay, we'll keep zipping through here, and I can see there's a lot of questions, so thanks for sticking with me here. Okay, Diamond, what do you got for us today? Actually, I better not. Yeah, I think I answered that one. Okay, Diamond, let's see what you got. Study permit. Studies start in September. Can't work. I recently got an opportunity to participate in an art contest for a company in the US. The video production will be done here in Canada. It is also considered work in Canada if I go ahead and participate. No. If it's a company that's in the US and you're working for that company, I think there's a good solid argument to indicate that's not work. Now, remember, if you're on a study permit and your studies start in September, I'm assuming that you haven't yet started. So in those circumstances, yeah, you can't start work in Canada. This is a little bit complicated because with your video production, if it's a US based thing, then well, you know what? This is Diamond, you ask me these darn tough questions. You need to book a consult, man. There's too many variables at play. At one point, it seems like possibly that might be okay, but then if the production is happening in Canada, that's different than working virtually. They used to call that telecommuting, which was okay. So boy, I'm not going to say one way or another. I can tell you, I also got an ITA and will submit my application this month. Will this affect my application? Traditionally, CEC does not really focus forward. So it's not like the federal skilled worker where you have a job offer and you have to keep working. With the CEC, once you hit ITA, it's kind of locked in. So yeah, so that's, it's, you know, I don't know how it would affect, but anyways, that's my take. So not sure on that one. Okay, taking a remote software engineering job in Canada with the option for a work permit while this pandemic is ongoing is risky due to the job losses in Canada. Well, Mark, I need a little bit more information. Remote software engineering job in Canada, you can't work. That's still work if you're in Canada working for a Canadian company. So I'd recommend against doing that. If the company was actually outside of Canada, technically that wouldn't be considered work. Okay. Okay, Ola, brother sent fake documents. Ooh, not good. Oh, I think I answered this one last week. I think I did. Yes, and in every way that could potentially affect his application. Yes, Ola. Putting in fake documents is a stupid thing to do, and it could negatively impact on the application. Okay, so IELTS, like I said before, expiring soon. Well, the file will basically, if IELTS expires, you're probably going to get kicked out of the pool, and that's just the nature of it. Okay. Great, Claude. Welcome from Senegal. Okay, no deal. Once you've got one postgrad work permit, you can't get another one. So people determining that they're going to that they're actually going to apply for another postgrad or go to school and then apply for another one a second time, you can't do that. Only one. Okay, yeah, I know where you're going there. Yeah, so work here, Diamond, a freelancer outside of Canada, if the work is being done virtually and there is nothing happening in Canada, that's a different story. So that type of freelance is probably okay. Okay, lots of reposting here. Mohammed says, live long and prosper. Awesome. Hi, Ibrahim. Are the plans to immigration quotes in 2022? We don't know what the levels plans are. I'm almost positive they're not going to hit the levels plans for this year for immigration because of the slowdown. So those targets. So maybe in the next years, I have to assume that they're probably going to be doing a little bit of catch up. Okay, guys, we're just about to the end here. This has been a super long one. Let's see here. Okay, 4 times visa to any other country. Yeah, and that's fine. Yasmin, I'll often just include that just as I disclose it. It's not going to hurt your application any. No, if your brother's applying for PR, that doesn't affect your your study permit application. Well, they can look at anything and use anything, so I'll qualify that. But on the face of it, Alexander, that because your brother has got their PR for Canada doesn't mean that outright because of that they're going to refuse. Okay, what is the logic? Why is it that we can drive to Canada with a COPR if we have a US tourist visa? I believe you don't have it, you need to apply for a PRTD. It comes down to boarding the airline, and airlines don't want to have to pay the bill if you're rejected to fly you back. And so that's why we have PR cards, so that the airlines can rest assured that they're not going to be on the hook if you're turned back. Christian, yeah, there's a lot of people in that situation. Tourist visas will end this coming July. I don't want to go back to the Philippines due to COVID. Can I apply for extension and let them? The reason is all you make the pitch, right? You make the pitch. That's all you can do. Thanks for the great videos, Ibrahim says. I submitted my application. No news since biometrics. Yep, that's common, and you're probably not going to hear much. Hit that one before. Will the score go up? I think for federal skilled worker, it will, because there's so many of you that are just, there's been no draws. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was the high 470s, even 480s. if if the draw actually includes everybody. Okay, Rock says, due to COVID, POEs don't let people apply at the border. Can someone on a visitor visa who received a positive LMIA from employer apply for a work permit within Canada? Yeah, so Rock, right now I think we talked about that at length, and the reality is you have to apply for your first work permit outside of Canada, but there might be some ways to make it work if you're in a critical kind of industry. Okay, guys, this is awesome, and I think I'm gonna have to draw it in here. 140. It was an awesome experience today. I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in. It really makes it just so much better when you guys are so kind in and basically being patient with me when I'm trying to answer questions. And you can see the questions that are asked, like none of them were trolls. Like, it's amazing. Just you guys are just so kind and respectful of one another and appreciative of what I'm trying to do. So thank you so much. As we wrap up here, once again, I want to shift back here to Chrome and let you guys know about my Canadian settlement course here. So you guys have got to, I'll pull it back a little bit here. You've got to go in here and register. May 8th, that's tomorrow at 8 a.m. There's still time, 17 hours away. It's a live free webinar on settling in Canada, and you just fill in your information. And the most important part here is the last question that says, what would you like to learn more successfully about? Okay, what must I know before I board the plane? So there's a great question. So post your questions here, and they will form a large part of how the course is structured and how it functions, as well as we're going to address a bunch of these issues in the live free webinar tomorrow. So make sure you do that. Those of you who are wondering, hey Mark, it seems like you have somewhat of a clue what you're doing. How do I reach you? How do I book a consult? Go to holthelaw.com right here. And when you're here, you can go right over here, or it may even appear on your phone as the actual Start Here button. Click on the Start Here, and then you can book a consult. Okay, that's the best way to do it. And then, like I've already showed you before, let's see if this is it. I'm going to show you. I have the Canadian. I'm going to show you a few of the other things that I have available for you guys that I want you to go and subscribe for. One is my Canadian Immigration podcast. There's going to be some really cool things. There was an awesome one that I'd turn your attention to on international students that I just released, but I have a ton of different topics that I've covered on. What's going on with Canadian immigration? We're starting our special series on immigration hearings and appeals, and I have to pull Rick on to do some more of those videos to continue forward with that. And I'm going to be releasing my next ones are an interview I did with Jeffrey Lowe from Lowe & Company in Vancouver, and it's probably going to be a 3-part series just because it's so long. I may just release them all together though. But those videos, those episodes are really going to be good for anyone who's looking to invest or do business in Canada. And there's topics on all kinds of different areas. So definitely go and check that out. And as always, I'm here to help and provide information. On my main site here, if I go back here, I wonder if I can even find it. Those of you who are looking to immigrate to Canada, actually it's not that one, I keep clicking the wrong link here. Please be aware of my do-it-yourself courses. And the one that is probably the most popular of all is the course on Express Entry. And it is an awesome course. And so if you go in here, you can get lots more information about it. It's a complete step-by-step course on how to fill out everything yourself. Lots of information. It's chock full of just tons of things that you can do to avoid all of the most common problems. Now you can see the course itself, it's $497 US for a one-time payment. But if you click on it and if you type in the coupon code EEDIY50 and apply it, and I'm speaking really quietly now, you can get 50% off, and you can get the full course, all 44 lessons, the crazy, amazing, actually, I should probably just show you guys. Those who aren't interested, you're free to drop off now, and a lot of people I know have. But those of you who are watching this to the end, if you go and I'm going to log in, I'm going to show you what it's all about. And when you sign in, you'll see here that once you get your access to it, that it is chock full of just about everything that you could need for purposes of express entry. Learning the basics of it, how to submit your profile is in 2, completing your profiles in 3, completing the EAPR is 4, uploading your documents is 5. And if I click on uploading your documents, this is the last module, you can see that there are over 44, there's actually way more because I have new ones on biometrics and things like that that are embedded in here as well. There's probably almost 50 of these that walk you through every step little by little. In the document checklist here, you'll also see this document checklist, one lesson 40, is chock full of downloaded material that's available. Sample gift deeds, sample job offers, sample employer reference letters, examples of what an RCMP certificate looks like, marriage certificates, education, birth certificates, reference letters, like I said, and lots of different police certificates from different countries, as well as WES and all the educational credential assessments, e-medical information. It's all here to guide you and to help you navigate through the process. And it's not just each individual lesson that corresponds to the actual sections. If you go to the Express Entry profile, you'll be able to see here that I have a lesson for everything. Introduction, the personal details section. So when I click on here, it takes me right to the actual profile section itself. Next. So the answers that I give right here are exactly the ones in the way that you'd be completing it yourself. So take a look at that. Just to finish off, I guess if I flip back here to the categories, the last thing I want to show you guys is the resource section. And this section here has built up over time, covers everything: general info, work experience. There's questions about everything you wanted to know. There's even one that's devoted exclusively to self-employed work experience. You know, how do I prove work experience if I'm self-employed? There's ones on language, resources on your general eligibility, how to increase your chances, job offers, what they are, how they work, proof of funds, police clearances, dependent family, how to complete your EAPR if you've listed your spouse as non-accompanying. This is a tutorial on that. Education, medicals, PNP nominations, other names if you've got name changes, relatives in Canada, dependent children, spousal relationships, provincial nominees, express entry refusals, and you can see it goes on and on and on. So with all of that being said, you guys, if I go back here, and remember, you can access all of this if you just go to the actual, we'll go back here actually to the DIY. Oh, I'm clicking a bunch of different things here. This is what happens when you're trying to keep up. So if you go to the DIY courses here and you go in and you click on purchase now, remember, if you type in the code Express Entry, it's EEDIY50, and click apply, you can get 50% off. And that's something that I advertise for people that are watching the live videos. So there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm just grateful and honored to have been able to do this with you today. And it was a super long one, but I really wanted to give all I could to everybody. So thanks so much. Take care. I wish you safety, health, happiness with your families, wherever you are all over the world, and especially during this crazy world that we call COVID-19. Take care.